Hey everyone, it is JoAnna from Metal Clay World, and today I'm going to show you how to make this cuff bracelet, as well as these earrings. What I'm going to be using in this tutorial is obviously my roller, my WD-41 Smooth Remove Clay Release, the Boom and Burnish and Powder by JoAnna, my Flip and Flex by Savannah, the Ultimate Needle Tool, which has 3 different size tips, my extruder, and the extruder comes with 4 rounds. We're not going to be using the biggest round. You can if you would like. I'm going to be using the second to largest one, and then the medium-sized one and the small one. This will be for the actual cuff itself. If you wanted to do the big one, you could. I'm using the new 5-Star Project X Red Bronze. These mini clothespins that you can get at General Dollar. These stainless steel posts with or without the tabs, the pads, obviously with backs. Sanding pads. Microtip pruners. Silicone tipped tools. I usually mostly use the pointed one and the flat one. Plastic bag that has the top has been cut off and the sides have been cut. And of course, Better Bond. This is the key. These 2 things are the key to all of this. If you are new to Better Bond is a metal clay glue. You can do wet to wet, dry to dry, fired to fired, dry to fired, all kinds of things. There is a video on YouTube. So I just wanted to show you, your bottle will come with a bottle of Better Bond, the precision tip, and this. You will take this top off, and I will show you on this bottle. No. You will take this top off, and there is usually a plastic ring around here, so you make sure that you take this off and the ring that's attached to the bottom. You are going to pop off the stopper that is in it. I can do it with my nails. You could use a butter knife. We're going to put that down all the way to the bottom. Screw your precision tip on. Be sure that you shake it before you use it. And when you're done, make sure that you put the stopper on, so that way your tip doesn't dry out. So first step, okay. Bit of lube on my plastic. And again, this is just a Ziploc bag that I have cut. Oh, there's a hair there, but it's on the other side. That I have cut to be able to put the clay in. As you can see, which is pretty common with copper, it's oxidized a little bit. We're just going to mix that together. And it might look dry. See how that looks dry? It's really not. So we're just going to mush that all together. And I'm going to roll this out in my plastic. And you will see that this will also get it all mixed in. So we're going to roll that out. going to, again, knead it into place. Now, I will tell you, make sure that you do a test strip so you find your cincher temp. I can tell you that the instructions for the Project Ducks base metal has been right on for me, but I did do test strips. And again, all kilns fire differently. So make sure that you find your cincher temp. And what does that mean? Your best cincher temp is right before melt. And what you want to do is fire your piece, do a test strip. When it's done cintering, take a pair of pliers or something round and bend it. And if it bends without breaking, it's cintered. All right, so we know that this is 50 grams of clay. So I'm going to roll this out flat. And this is how I add the flex. And I roll this out as flat as I can get it. Important note about the flex, anytime you add any liquid, including flex, it's going to change your shrinkage. I also want to remind you to just mix in flex on what you're going to use in one sitting. Okay, so it is 1 drop for every 2 grams, so this is going to be 25 drops, and I know it seems like a lot. So it's 25 drops, okay? So I am going to just kind of roll this up like a cigar. It's going to seem really wet. And then I'm going to tuck the ends up. And if a little spills out, just put that right on top of it. Now I'm going to fold this up. And I am going to let this sit for about 15 or 20 minutes just to soak some of that in. Okay, it has been about 15 or 20 minutes, so we are going to now mix in the flex. So it looks really wet, and it is a little gooey, but I just start out by squishing it all together. I promise it'll mix in. I'm going to roll it out. See, it's already coming together really nicely. So I just keep folding it over. I'm going to push it up again. All right, so now I'm going to roll it out one last time. And I'm going to let this sit for about 20 minutes to half an hour, just for it to I guess we'll just say rest. So we will be right back. All right, so this is ready to go. We are going to take it out of the package. Actually, I want to mush it up a little bit in here before I touch it. All right, I'm going to put a little lube on my hands, very little. And I'm also going to get my extruder ready. I am going to clean the end off. Again, because there's base metal in there, I'm not super concerned about it. If I was going to be doing silver, I would have switched it out. All right. I'm going to take this off. All right, so we are going to lube that. Don't really need to lube that. I'm not sure why I just did that. We're going to lube at the end of this. And we are going to start with the big one. And again, you'll feel a lip. That lip is going to go on the top. So I'm going to lube this piece a little bit. Put that in. Screw that on. I'm going to set that aside. We're going to work the flex the rest of the way in, and it feels good. It's nice and supple. Make a snake. Stick it in there. And again, make sure you do test strips so you know your shrinkage. My wrist is a 5.5, so I'm going to do, quite honestly, I'm going to probably do this at 5.5. Okay, I'm going to get my non-stick surface. And I would do it on here, but I'm going to use that for this part. So I want this on this surface. And I am going to extrude out 5.5 inches as the length. That is what the circumference of my wrist is, knowing that that's going to be too big. But I can cut it down if need be. And I'm going to do it diagonally. All right, and here we go. All right. And keep your extruder up and in front of the, and of course my surface is moving, but that's okay. I can get a general idea. I'm just going to take it right to pretty much the corner. I'm just going to plop that off. And I'm going to take 2 of my rolling slats just to push this together a little bit to kind of straighten it out. And we are at 6 inches, which I do know is a little big. All right, so I'm just going to form this. Basically what I want is I basically want my bracelet shape. And I will end up cutting some of these ends off. So we're going to set this aside and let this air dry. And now we are going to use this one for the earrings, I'm going to just do that on a little tough card because they're not very big. Just to release the pressure on this a little bit. I'm going to change my disc. I'm going to push that back up in there a little bit. Put that one aside. And I still have a little bit of lube on my hands. And again, you can make these as thick as you want. I just don't want them super thick. And I am just going to extrude a little bit, which that is more than enough for the earrings. And you can pre-shape these if you want. While these are still wet, I am going to snip the ends. And I'm going to very carefully insert these into, this can be a little tricky, but the really cool thing, oh, that went too far. You don't want it to go in that far. Okay, and we are going to let those dry. And then we're going to do this one. So you hold it kind of straight, put that down into the middle and squeeze a little bit while you're putting it in. We're gonna let these dry, and then we're gonna put a little extra clay, just very little bit, just on the top. And you can double check to make sure that your posts are the same length. All right, so we're gonna let these air dry. And we will revisit these in a little bit. Switch my end again. I'm going to put this clay back in here. And now we're on to the little end. And that will be for the wraps around here and the wraps around the bracelet. And if you watch the last video, it'll be the same thing. I'm just going to extrude them on this work surface. And you just want to keep it up and stay in front of it. So just like the Project X flexes, if you just grab this and do that, it's going to break. So what I do is I manipulate this to give it a little more bend. And I'm also going to say when you are extruding your clay for this, try to do it in a circle because then you're not dealing with the sharp curves. All right, I'm going to break that part off for now. Set that aside. And I'm just going to manipulate this a little more. And you can get it to the point where you'll be able to wrap it around your finger. And that piece broke, so I just want to show you. So we're just going to manipulate this little piece. You see how it's got more flexibility? And again, the more the copper content, in theory, the more flex you would need, but I don't want to overflex it. So you get close to a knot. So we are going to dip this in some Better Bond. Oh, that's a little too much, but it'll work. I have tested this with water. And if you use water, it dries and it dries faster and it gets really hard. So that's why I do the Better Bond. So we're going to let that just sit for a minute. You can literally tie that in a knot. I mean, look at that. It's like rubber banding. It's awesome. I don't know why it does that, but it makes me happy. So this is the bracelet part, obviously. And I'm going to start in the middle on this. And I'm going to put a little dab of Better Bond on the top. And I am just going to hold that. And it will dry pretty quickly. And I am just going to very gently make my wraps. And it's easier if you do it from the middle. I have just figured out. And don't pull it too tight because it will snap. And I'm going to put a little Better Bond. Just make sure that your seams are on the inside. It's very cold and dry in my house, so all right, put a little more there. And then we're just going to hold that there for a minute. All right, and now we are going to do the other side. We're going to hit that with some Better Bond. And we're just going to hold that there for a minute. And the one thing about the Better Bond is it doesn't get mushy, and it doesn't, like even these pieces that I dredged through the Better Bond, they're not, I mean, it's not mushy. All right, so I'm going to snip these ends. And then I will re-snip them after they adhere more. And I am just going to set this down while it does its thing. And I'm going to do a crisscross pattern on that, where on this one I did the double, but I'm going to try to do a crisscross pattern. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do the earrings while we let this set up a little bit. This is where these little clothespins come in play. And again, these are not, you know, the perfect shape that I want, but that's fine. I will reshape them once they're fired on the mandrel. And a lot of people, you're probably thinking, why did I put them in this way? I'll tell you why. Because it's easier to hold on to this end to poke in there. And then after firing, I will snip that off and take a pair of metal snippers and just kind of do the line around it so the earring back will lock in, and then you'll do a rounding burr on the end, or you could use sandpaper. All right, so I'm just going to redredge these quick. And the same thing, we're going to want it on the inside, your seams on the inside. And this is where these little clothespins come in handy, because you can get it set up so that it sits right inside this hole, and it will hold it while it's setting up, which makes it really easy to just make your twist around it. I probably should have started on the other end, which is fine. I did not. And plus you can hold on with the... Again, it's not perfect, but you can situate them so that I'm just going to have a little better bond on this end. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to clip it so that it's inside this hole. All right, I have to just... And if it's a little loose, it's fine, because when it fires, it will tighten up with the shrinkage. So we're just going to set that one aside. And you are going to do your other earring the same way that we did this one. Sorry to do the other one off camera. So let's get this finished up. And we will start with the bracelet. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip these ends. I'm going to pour out a little bit of butter bond. And like I said, I am doing this bracelet a little bit different than this one, because I'm going to crisscross them. All right. So, I'm going to take about that much. I am going to, like I did in this, I had to break that off. All right, we're going to work this a little bit, and then we're going to drag it through the Better Bond, just like we did with the first one. The only difference is because I am crisscrossing this, I am still going to do it from the middle of the bracelet, but I think I'm going to hold it until it dries, and you'll see what I mean. All right, so we're going to dredge this through the Better Bond, just like we did the last time. Let that sit for a minute. And I am going to, with the precision tip, and I'm going to start in the middle. Well, I mean, in theory, I'm going to start in the middle. But I'm going to start right here. So I'm going to put a little dab of Better Bond there. And this is going to be my starting point. Like I said, the Better Bond doesn't, it absorbs into your clay and it doesn't make it mushy. All right, let's see how we do. So I am just going to let that sit for a minute. Okay, and I'm just going to hold this side gently. And I am going to start crisscrossing this. And I'm going to pull that a little tighter. And I'm going to tack that with some Better Bond. And I am just going to let that sit. So that's what it looks like. All right, and now on to the earrings. All right, when you take these off, be very careful because if it was super wet, it will stick a little. So just be very careful, otherwise it will stick on that one side. Okay, I am going to cut off my tails. And I'm going to make these a little shorter because I want them not to be so round. So I am going to hold them, and I'm just going to make them a little bit shorter. Okay. Now we're going to add a little bit of clay up on the top because this will, I got lucky and the earrings that I made, the wires stayed in. But we're going to just put a little fresh clay there. It's still nice and fresh, and we're a couple of days into this clay. And I have not added any moisture. I'm just take out 2 little pieces, which that might still be too much. And that's okay. I'm going to take a little bit of Better Bond. And I am just going to put it on the top of the clay here where the post is. And I'm going to take a little teeny tiny bit. This might even be too much. And I'm just going to roll it like a little snake. You can do that in between your fingers. And I am just going to kind of twist it around a little bit there. And of course you want to have it blend in. You can also refine this. Once it's dry. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. You can do the same thing with the other one. All right, and our bracelet is ready to be, our bracelet and the earrings are ready to be put in the dehydrator for drying. When they come out of the dehydrator, you're going to refine them. Like with me, once in a while, I'll get, oh, I just touched that wet end. I've got little nail divots in it. You can fill that with a little Better Bond and fresh clay. You can soften your edges. And I will say, I would probably not push these posts in as far as I did. So you're gonna want to push them in a little, not as far as I did. So I will say, if you're gonna add fresh clay, don't push these in as far as I did. So you have room when you cut this off that they'll have room to go into the ear. So you're just gonna look for any little divots. And refine anything that you want to refine. So we're going to put it in the dehydrator. We're going to do our refining. Again, just use sanding pads and then fire it. All right, we have a little bonus footage here to see if this works. So we're going to be, this is the first time I tried this, so we will see if it works. Same process as all the other ones. These were extruded today, so they're pretty pliable. We're just going to dredge them through. Set it aside. These are small pieces that I'm going to put aside, and I'll show you why after. I hope this works, because I think this is a really cool idea. I wasn't sure how much space the knot would take up. So these are pretty long for my wrist. And I did extrude these on wax paper because I wanted them straight with no curves. Just easier to work with. We are going to line these up. Not overlapping. All right, I'm going to split my fingers a little bit because I want these all together. All right. I'm going to pick all these up and I'm going to make a knot in the middle. Wish me luck. All right, here we go. Perfect. Exactly the way I wanted it. So, all right. So now I am just going to get all of these lined up again. And I'm just going to spray this with a little bit of water because I need it to be just a little bit wet because they're sticking together. So you have to untangle them. All right, and we are going to do the same thing on this side. Distilled water. I'm going to lay this diagonal so it's all on here. All right, I had thought about using these pieces to put maybe a wrap on the ends, but I am not going to do that. So we are going to let that dry. We'll be back. Okay, so I moved this over to a piece of plastic draped over a mandrel to preform it, and it broke when I took it off, which is good and bad. So what it did was it gave me the time to, I snipped the ends. And again, I know that this is going to be too long for me, but this broke. So what I did was I cut, so it was like this. I cut that off. And I'm just going to take some Better Bond. And I'm just going to snip these little edges sticking out. And I'm going to take some Better Bond. And I'm going to tuck this right in there. And you're not even going to be able to know that it broke. Oh, yeah, that was a glob, which is fine. So I am just going to tuck this right in there. And I am just going to hold it for a minute. And we are going to just let that dry. And if you wanted to, I mean, I don't want to move it right now, but you could put a little piece of fresh clay in there underneath that. And I don't have any fresh clay left. But you could very easily put a piece of fresh clay in there. I'm going to hold it up. So in that space right in there. So what I might do is reconstitute some clay. And I also think that there's a possibility that this is going to be too thin. So you could roll out, I'm going to put a little Better Bond up here too. All right, so we're going to let that dry. So everything just came out of the kiln, and I pre-bent this. So this did work. I'm super excited about it. I did already bend this on the mandrel, but I do just want to show you the inside. I knew that this wasn't going to be strong enough because it was really thin. So I did a textured pattern inside to give it strength, 2 cards thick. And then I put, because I had to cut some off to make this fit for me. So I took those ends and I just put them down here. And I just want to show you what it looks like on. Super cool. So I'm going to put that in the tumbler. This is the twist bracelet that we did. And when you take this out, there was some carbon stuck under here. I just took my X-Acto knife and pick them out. So that is also going in the tumbler. These are the earrings. And you can see this isn't moving and it's not coming out. Same thing, there was a little carbon stuck in there. Took that out. So these are also going in the tumbler. I am going to shape them a little better on my mandrel to make them more half circles. Before I put them in, I will cut these after the tumbler. So these are going in the tumbler with Metal Clay World's burnishing powder for 40 minutes. Then I'm going to take them out. I'm going to hit them with the Jewel Tool scratch erasers. And then I'm going to throw them in the rotary. So stay tuned. We'll be back. I just want to show these. These are right out of the mag tumbler. They cleaned up real nice. I love how this came up. There is a pin in here I have to take out. The earrings, I still haven't formed them. So I'm going to hit these with either the Jewel Tool or the scratch erasers, and then put them in the rotary tumbler. So I'll keep you posted. This bracelet has been put into the mag tumbler with the Metal Clay World burnishing powder for 40 minutes. Then I hit this. I was going to use the scratch erasers, but my handheld is in the process of getting fixed. So I hit this with the radials on the Jewel Tool, and then I put it in the rotary for about 10 minutes with the Metal Clay World burnishing powder. Same thing with the earrings. And then I formed these on a ring mandrel. So these are the earrings. I did not polish these. I didn't do anything with these other than put them into the mag tumbler. So yeah, the shine on this is pretty wild. And I would say when all was said and done, hands-on, not including the magnetic or the rotary, the radials took like maybe 10 minutes. So there's those. So now what we're going to do is we're going to snip these ends. And you can use wire cutters. I choose to use these. You're just going to snip right down at the end. Then I would take these and I would very gently just do this around in a circle to get a divot in there for the back to click on. And then take a rounding burr and sand these down. If not, you can just use sandpaper. And then you are good to go. So there's the earrings. The bracelet fits pretty perfect for me. And again, I mean, you can do anything. This is the first one that I made. Look at the difference in the color because I went through the whole process with this. So you can do it this way, you can do it that way, you can do it however you want. So this was the experiment that I tried. So this isn't a full tutorial on this, but it gives you the basics. I will tell you that it did get caught because I wasn't paying attention. I did get this side caught on the radials, so it did bend, and I had to bend it back. So that's why it's a little wonky there. But this, again, was just an experiment, but I decided that I would videotape it just in case it actually worked. And it did. So these are the two bracelets. Same process. With this bracelet, it was in the mag tumbler with the Metal Clay World burnishing powder. And then it was hit with the radials on the Jewel Tool. And then I put it in the rotary for maybe 5 minutes. So you'll get the you obviously have gotten the basics on this. And I think that's it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, be sure to reach out to JoAnna Phillips.